we had been traveling a lot, back and forth from, like I said, Little Rock to Memphis area. Half the word was in Memphis. And so it was tons of driving. And all of our potentials that were really, really progressing had gotten baptized, or we had, put them on pause if they weren't. So we had nothing, because we had been traveling so much, and we had been trying to work out logistics of getting new sisters or ASL missionaries to the mission and such. So we decided, we went to we had 3 missionaries in our ward, actually. So English elders, English sisters, and then us. So we went to one of their baptisms. We did a lot of member work. So we asked for any referrals. We're like, do you have any friends that are less active? Do you have any friends that maybe are lonely? Any non-member friends that we could go see? Anybody. Literally anybody. We have nothing to do. Obviously, we can do other things, but basically this would be our best option, is if you have someone that you want us to go visit. And someone said, oh yeah, sure, so-and-so in the ward, his wife died recently. He's really been sick. He hasn't come to church for a while because he's sick, but he's lonely. So technically he's less active, but you guys could go visit him. And we're like, okay, a lonely old guy in the ward. Well, it's good, help him feel the Spirit. We went there and we talked to him, and of course he went on and on about his stories, and it was just kind of like, oh great, it was good to listen to. And then we asked him at the end, of course, do you have anyone that you'd like us to see that's less active or lonely, or someone who's non-members? And he was like, no, I can't really think of anything. His son actually had been walking around in the background this whole time. He was going to have his dad babysit his children, and the kid was crying the whole time, so it was really interesting. But he came over at the end of our lesson, or our conversation, with this older man, and was like, actually, there's this lady in our ward. She hasn't been to church for a while. I think she's sick, but she has a non-member husband, and the missionaries used to go over there all the time, but I haven't really heard anything from any of you lately about them, so maybe you should go see them. And we'd never heard of these people. We didn't really have an area book because we were new. We were like ASL missionaries, so they had the English area book, and then we had ours, which didn't have anything in it, so we didn't really know. We tried to get the English area book and look at it and stuff, but we didn't have it all memorized, of course. So we went over to these people's house, and they were like, oh, missionaries, so great. We used to have missionaries all the time over, and we would feed them, and we would talk. It was the sister that actually answered the door, and she's like, my husband's not a member. He's not a member, but he's not interested. So her husband hadn't come downstairs, and she was trying to warn us that he didn't necessarily want to join the church, that he had heard it all, taken all the lessons before, wasn't interested. And we were like, at that point, we don't really have anyone else, so we're gonna try again. And she was like, okay, do your best, but I don't know. And so we knew we had to come up from a different direction. He ended up coming downstairs. A funny guy, was totally in his pajamas. Older guy, really nice. They fed us, even though we had already had lunch, but of course you never say no. So we had lunch with them. And then at the end I was like, you know what? We just automatically started calling him Brother Lowry. Never really knew his first name because we wanted to just kind of like get that friendship going. So we're like, Brother Lowry, we have been traveling a ton. We have no investigators anymore because we've been driving back and forth so much, and everyone that we were working with has either moved on or stopped progressing. Would it be okay if we practice the lessons on you, because we're super rusty? And it was a good opportunity, right, to get a non-member's point of view on our teaching. And he was like, oh yeah, for sure, but like nothing's gonna happen. And I was like, okay, it's fine as long as we get to practice. So we went into the other room, and we started with the first lesson, of course, and went through the principles. Of course, the first one is that God is our loving Heavenly Father. And we didn't even make it through that principle, and he started bawling. Like, older man, had done a lot of, older man, strong, manly things, and just started crying, and just extremely touched by the fact that God is our loving Heavenly Father, that he loved him, and then he cared about him. And we made it about halfway through the first lesson when we decided to ask him if he would be baptized. It had been a really long lesson. So we asked him, of course, if he would follow the example of Jesus Christ and be baptized with someone holding the proper authority. His wife, again, had that look like, what are you doing? But the Spirit was there so strong. And we asked him, and he said yes, very adamantly. And it was amazing that it was, again, like I said, the right time, that the Lord kind of just was like, he's prepared, and just kind of stuck us there. And I think that's one thing that I've learned from the mission too, is no matter what you're doing, if you work your hardest, there's going to be results, and it might not be with the people that you're working with. You know, we had knocked on millions of doors, we had worked with millions of people, not millions obviously, but lots of people, and they hadn't progressed, and we had put so much effort in, but then the Lord let us work with someone who had been prepared by someone else. And so sometimes you don't reap what you sowed, but you reap what someone else did. And as long as you work hard, all of those blessings come around in a circle and they work out. But when he got baptized, he went in the water, and when he came out, he came out shouting, yes, so adamantly. And I bawled because it was probably one of the most beautiful things that I had ever seen, that he knew that what he had done was right, and he was rejoicing. He then fell against the wall and just started bawling, and everyone there just, no words. We just all were so grateful for that opportunity to see him come closer to his Heavenly Father. And his wife was astonished because she had worked for so many years. Never give up hope on the ones that you love, and never stop working no matter how many times you feel like you've hit a dead end. It'll all work out in the end. So